I think the mindset is the first thing that people have got to overcome. The second thing they've got to figure out is, how do you do this thing? Because it's not just talking to people, right? There's so much psychology and practice. Like if you're a car mechanic, a really good car mechanic, how long did it take you to become a really good car mechanic, right?
Yeah.
5, 10 years? Do you think that you're going to become a really, really good salesperson in 2 days? Probably not going to happen. You're going to need to read a lot of books. You're going to need a mentor or 2 or 3, and you're going to have to be willing to put your ego aside and just listen to people. Like I can't tell you how many mentors that told me things that just didn't make sense to me. I didn't feel like that could be true, and I pushed back on them, and they convinced me to go ahead and just listen to them. Man, just find somebody who's already where you want to be, who's got the kind of ethics and morals that you want to have, and just do whatever they tell you. Just be a sponge, be humble, be hungry.
Welcome to the podcast. Nathan Newberry here, your host. I have Gene Slade here on the podcast with us. Super pumped for you guys to hear his story and his backstory and his insights around sales. He has a lot of decades of experience with this. We're going to get some of his insights on how to do it well, how to build teams, how to use and leverage AI in this modern world to really do it effectively. But right before we do that, I want to guys give you a free gift. Most of the time, leaders struggle with getting more leads and revenues and building the brand that's actually going to help you be successful online. And we're in a world where influence marketing is the next way people market and get leads and revenue. And so I go through a full training down below in the show notes. So you could grab that full training. That's going to be super helpful for you in that journey. But right now, let's jump into the conversation here with Eugene. What is high performance? What does that look like? How do you apply that to your life?
High performance. So what does it mean to me?
Yeah.
I think that if I think about high performance, I think about like the top 2% of the people in any sort of field, right? It takes something to get there. High performance, man, I don't typically get tongue-tied, right? But I think it's just, when I think about a high-performing person, I think about somebody who's disciplined. I think about somebody who's been through the fire, somebody who is resilient, somebody that just doesn't stop, somebody that bounces back when they get knocked down. I think Les Brown said that, I think he might have been quoting Willie Jolly when he said that if you get knocked down, try to land on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up, right? It's a trait, it's a characteristic of somebody who is relentless.
I love it. And tell us a little bit about your background, your experience with how you serve clients right now, because you're a well-known person in this space. You've been doing sales for, I think, 30 years. Is that right? You have 6 kids. Like, tell us a little bit more about you and how you help people.
It's going on 30 years for sure. So how I help people right now, typically the people that I help are in the service trades, like the service industry. So if you imagine your home, anybody that would come out to work on anything in your home, those are the people that we serve. Expand the question a little bit more for me.
Yeah, like, how do you serve people? So you work with salespeople. Is that individuals? Is that businesses? Like, how do you serve people? How do you train them to be really efficient? Like, tell us a little bit about you and your business.
Got it. So we work mainly with the employees of the companies. I deal a lot with the business owners up front, right? Because they're typically paying for the training. But we specialize in helping businesses like an HVAC company. An example would be 80% of a revenue from an HVAC company typically comes from replacing air conditioners or furnaces, right? But that doesn't happen but every 10 to 20 years. So if we're going out to clean an air conditioner or furnace twice a year for 10 years, that's 20 appointments where we don't have an opportunity for a sale for replacing that heating and air conditioning system. So what I did with my first business, I didn't even want to sell air conditioners. I just wanted to be a service company and help people to clean up their air. So what we do is we focus on all of the other stuff that everybody else misses, like filtration systems and indoor air quality systems, and making sure that the air distribution system is set up right. So that our maintenance and service departments are not draining the profits from our replacement department, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
That's a massive gap in air conditioning and heating companies across the country. For a plumbing company, it might be that the massive gap is that the customers don't have water treatment systems and they're not selling them. And they're not thinking that as a plumbing company, every supply side plumbing problem, that means anything that pushes water through your house, any of the pipes, any of the valves, all that stuff, the number one root cause of all that failing is crappy water, right? And so they're not looking at the entire house. They're only looking at one little problem, and that costs them tons of money. Yeah. So we train their technicians and their employees on how to look for the things that other people aren't looking for. And then we teach them a lot about psychology and how to get clients to come to their own conclusion that they have a problem and that something needs to be done. And we don't do that by talking at them. We do that by giving them information through the form of a question, if you will. Yeah. And if you got 30 seconds, I could give you an example.
Sure.
So surge protection would be something that people a lot of times would like their technicians to sell. And all these technicians do is go in and talk about it and tell them that they need it, right? Instead, we ask the client questions. We'll look at the client and say, why don't you have surge protection? Instead of saying you should have surge protection, right? Now something's missing. And then we'll say something like, did you know that we get over 1.2 million cloud to ground lightning strikes a year here in this area when we get surge? And when that happens, we get in-home surges. And did you know that when you get an in-home surge that your compressors can glow cherry red on the inside? Do you think that's good? What do you suppose that does to the reliability of the system? How about the lifespan? Have you ever purchased a new compressor before? So you weren't aware that a new compressor is like $3,000? Can you see now why all of our clients just get surge protection instead of replacing expensive compressors, motors, maybe even a whole system, right? So all of those were questions instead of talking at the client. And when I ask them questions and give them information in the form of those questions, just by changing the first couple of words, like, did you know or were you aware? I bypass their truth false system, their truth false filter, right? They're accepting the information as an enlightenment as opposed to something that they've got to determine, is this true or is this not true? When anybody says something to you or gives you a piece of information, your bullshit meter will go off or it won't, right? So this is a way for us to bypass that and control what the client is thinking and get them to come to a conclusion that something needs to be done instead of us telling them that something needs to be done. Always works out better if the client says it needs to be done, you know?
Right.
So that's kind of how we serve people. What?
And that helps the business build in more of maintenance, monthly recurring revenue stream and or upsells or something for the business.
Exactly. Maintenance customers and accessory sales and products like that are what we really truly specialize in over here. I mean, I don't want to say anybody can sell furnaces and air conditioners, but there's a lot of people that teach how to do that. And I know how to do all of that as well, but we focus on the area where there's a gap, a massive gap in the marketplace and for the company. And when we do that, a lot of times we'll double the profits, not the revenue, but the profits of the company just by introducing those things into their business. And I get the technicians sold on that stuff so that they will sell it to clients. And this is a massive problem in the home service business, is that these manufacturers reps, they come in and they tell you about a product and how it works, but they don't ever share with you how to get a client to want it. Right? We tell them exactly what to say to get the client to want it, to want out of their negative situation. So big difference between us and most of the other people out there.
Yeah. Bring us to the point at the very beginning, like when you got into sales, or help us understand maybe like a part of your story and your journey where you were building up to the success that you have now.
Well, it all actually started back in Michigan when I was 11. My father owned his own heating and air conditioning company. He was a one-man show. And my uncle was a plumber, and he was a one-man show, owned his own company. And so when I was 11, my dad said, boy, you want food, you want clothes, come to work. So I did, and I carried his tool bag, and I was his helper from the time I was 11 until the time I was about 15. When I was 15, I was a qualified installer. I could put all the stuff in myself. So my dad had this bright idea to buy another truck, hire a 21-year-old, and he would drive me around, and I became the second crew. At 19, I was an installation foreman, and at 21, I ended up getting into sales and did really, really well in that. Better than anybody that I knew, and damn near quit the HVAC world until I found somebody down in Florida that really, they were selling about twice as much as me. And so I moved down there, got some experience in Florida, found some people who really understood business. And I had swore I'd never own an air conditioning company because I watched my father and my uncle struggle. I mean, struggle. They had no idea how to operate a business. They just knew how to turn wrenches. And so eventually I ended up being forced into starting my own company. I was fired from my job as a general manager of an air conditioning company in Tampa because I had went and taken my mechanical contractor's test to see what was on it. And when I say that, what I mean is I didn't buy any books. I just went and took a practice test because I wanted to see what was on the test. And fortunately or unfortunately, I passed the test, both the law and the business. And my bosses fired me because I passed the test. I wasn't planning on starting my own company right then because I had just had a baby boy, 6-week-old baby boy, a wife who was cut from hip to hip, just signed a brand new lease on a house that was like $2,500 a month back then. I mean, this is 20 years ago. And I had a 50-mile non-compete. So, I mean, I felt like I was screwed. And I decided to go to, I said to myself, you can either do this, build a company for somebody else again, because we had built the company from 2 to 8 million in about 3.5 years, myself and another guy for the owner. So I can do that again for somebody else, or I can move somewhere far away from here and I can start my own company. So on my ride home, I said, I'm going to start my company. And I went to the dealership and bought 2 trucks before the banks realized I didn't have a job. And then I went home and I took out like 21 credit cards, every credit card I could get. And then I moved to Southwest Florida, about 130 miles south, and started my business there. 6 years and, 1 day later, we ended up exiting it for a nice 7-figure profit with a bunch of awards and stuff. So I mean, that's the backstory on how we got here, if you will. And once I sold that company, I didn't know what I was going to do. Just kind of semi-retired for a while. And one day I decided to take a radio show that I used for my marketing and sell it around the country to contractors. And that worked out really well. And then that ended up leading us to having to teach them how to sell because the leads they were getting, they weren't closing them. And they said, we got bad leads here. And I said, no, you don't have a marketing problem. You got a sales problem. So I had to go out and show them how to sell these deals. And that's when the entire business turned on its head. Everybody seemed to want me to come out and show them how to sell this stuff. So that's kind of the backstory on how we got to where we're at right now.
Yeah. I mean, you're a podcast host. You have 6 kids now. Now you have a sales and marketing company helping with the service-based thing. Your company is called the Lead Ninja System. Talk to us a little bit
It's
about
Lead Ninja,
that.
and the website is leadninjasystem.com.
Yeah. So with what you do with the sales, what are the biggest challenges that most people have when they're first starting doing sales? Or they don't even have it? What's the challenges that most people have when you notice it?
Well, when was the last time you saw a school, a high school, a middle school, like teach a sales class? Nobody tells you about sales. There's this negative connotation about it. I think that one of the biggest challenges that people have to overcome is just the fact that they're going to have to tell people that they are in sales. I mean, what do you think of when you hear salesperson? You think slimy, scummy, liar, that kind of stuff. When in reality, a professional salesman, if he walked into this room right now, nobody would even know he was here. They're chameleonic. They blend in. They listen. And when you really truly realize that sales is more about helping people than it is about you or making money, that's when you can really start to unlock some joy. I talk to my techs all the time, and I say, never, ever think about your wallet or your commission when you're with the customer, right? Figure out what they need, help that client, and the money will take care of itself. Like if they know that you care about them. Mm-hmm. People don't care what you know until they know that you care about them. right? And
Ab-
once they know that you care about them, they will share their wealth with you. So stop thinking about yourself, stop thinking about the money, start focusing on what the client needs and how you can help them get it. And when I say care about them, I'm not talking about give them a big discount. I'm talking about charge them what you need to charge for you to actually make a good or great living, and then be there to back it up and take care of them and give them good service, right? So I think the mindset is the first thing that people have got to overcome. The second thing they've got to figure out is, how do you do this thing? Because it's not just talking to people, right? There's so much psychology and practice. Like if you're a car mechanic, a really good car mechanic, how long did it take you to become a really good car mechanic? Right?
Yeah.
5, 10 years? Do you think that you're going to become a really, really good salesperson in 2 days? Probably not going to happen. You're going to need to read a lot of books. You're going to need a mentor or 2 or 3. And you're going to have to be willing to put your ego aside and just listen to people. Mm-hmm. Like I can't tell you how many mentors that told me things that didn't make sense to me. I didn't feel like that could be true. And I pushed back on them. And they convinced me to go ahead and just listen to them. Man, just find somebody who's already where you want to be, who's got the kind of ethics and morals that you want to have, and just do whatever they tell you. Just be a sponge, be humble, be hungry. So those are the 2 main things, I think.
I love your approach with just asking questions, because I think a lot of times people feel like sales is you having the knowledge of product and then being able to like communicate with just a lot of detail, and you're pushing, you know. And I love the approach of just like you have your head and heart aligned with serving people, because you and I are believers, and I think that's there's an alignment with our way that we're designed from our maker, which is how can we help people? Because really, truly, that's the internal wiring that we have, where we find a lot of significance and fulfillment when we dial that in of like, how can I help people today? And I think that's
It's
the first
huge.
direction there. And then, the other part about things that I like you talked about is that you ask really good questions. And that comes from skill. Like for instance, like I'm online oftentimes with doing sales, and I have different tools that a lot like measure how much I speak versus the prospect on
Yeah.
the other line. And it's a really good
Zorilla or
gauge.
something else?
It's Fathom,
Okay.
Fathom, AI, that tool. They have
Yep.
a free version of it. You can get some paid stuff on it. It's just a tool I'm testing, but it gauges how long that you speak on it, which is really cool, because then it really kind of says, are you actually listening, or are you actually communicating and talking too much? And I think
Yeah.
that allows you to kind of gauge how successful that sale went if you're speaking less, asking the right questions.
Silence and questions are a salesperson's 2 best friends. Ask a question, shut up, and listen. If you listen to a client, they will tell you how to close them.
That's right.
You were talking about like fulfillment a moment ago, and I don't know if the audience, if it's mostly skewed men or whatnot, but as a man, the first 35 years of my life, really, it was really just all about making the money. And it wasn't that I didn't care about people, but I didn't really have a purpose. I didn't really know what my purpose was. And about the time I turned 35, 36 years old, I was having a conversation with God, and he had revealed to me my purpose. And my purpose is to help technicians, business owners, salespeople to work less, make more money, and get home for dinner on time or on the weekends. Because as a service-based business, we're always out at people's houses when they're at home, not at work. And so we miss so much time, so many years, so many dinners, so many bedtime routines with our kids. And if I can help somebody to triple or quadruple their income, then they've got a choice about how much they work, and they get to choose to spend more time with their family. So, and I never, ever really truly had joy in my life until, professional joy, until I found that purpose and really leaned into it. So I hope that helps somebody out there to really, seek that purpose, because once you find a purpose, you don't have to worry. you're not hitting the snooze button anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're excited for the day. I mean, I have a phenomenal life. I'm not a billionaire, but I've got everything that I need. I don't work that much. I spend every single waking moment of my life pretty much with my wife. I mean, we work together, we have lunch together, dinner together, breakfast together every single day. I mean, I live a freaking dream life because I was willing to set my own needs for money aside and just focus on my clients. So
Yeah.
that I hope
I've been
that
setting,
somebody grabs that out there.
yeah, I think that's really important to set up priorities, because if we looked at what we truly want, the outcome of our life is to have that freedom, which I categorize as, freedom financially, freedom in time, and then freedom in being able to impact more people, right?
Yeah.
And I as I'm studying history, like I'm obsessed right now with different podcasts where they research like history's greatest entrepreneurs like Ford, Rockefeller, all those,
Yeah.
you know, makers of industries in a way. And what you find is stories of people that have got, they were world denting, but they did not have the other priorities in line, and it affected so many areas of their life, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of everything in those autobiographies, they always reflect of saying, "Hey, I wish I did it different," which is what you're talking about. Is like being
You
there for
know,
your family, and looking for of a higher power. Because as you get to different seasons in life, you realize that money is not the main focus. It's a vehicle, because we maybe in seasons of our time life we didn't have it, or it was a drive because everybody else around us was shooting for it. But then when we really look at the importance and priority of everything, it's not as important as we think. We need to have the key things dialed in, but and then just being
well,
creative.
if I traded the majority of my life for, let's say, 100 million bucks, and it was sitting in the bank today, and tomorrow I die, what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
What's the point?
Yeah.
I just don't. I don't. We live in a weird society that makes us strive for things that really are not that important. And it takes age to introduce you to that, I think, that wisdom that comes with age. So there's just so much more fulfillment in one of my guys, one of my students calling me up and saying, Gene, I made 60 grand last year. In the last 60 days since I left your class, I've made 60 grand.
Mm-hmm.
My life has forever changed. My wife's looking at me in a whole different way. I got to figure out how to divert some of the money because Amazon's getting 2/3 of it, right? Like when you can transform the trajectory of somebody and their family tree, their future family tree, when you can change the trajectory of that entire thing, my gosh, I mean, there's never been a better feeling in life for me. When somebody says, thank you for helping me to, break these chains or whatever, gosh, just nothing better, man.
Let me ask you this, question around team building, right? I think there's different areas of, like, all of us as entrepreneurs and business owners, we need to get good at sales personally, but there's a whole nother
Sure.
layer of like building teams and training teams and helping those people to succeed, because it's a whole nother skill.
Yeah.
Talk about like how you've encountered, how do you build sales teams? How do you manage sales teams? What are some tactics or, fundamentals or principles that you teach and with all your students and businesses you serve?
Well, it reminds me of when I started my first air conditioning company, and I think I had 4 total employees. 3 were technicians that were working for me. And every morning we would have sales training. I'm talking every single morning. And they would come in and I would get up on stage and I'd preach at them. And then they'd go out in the field and they wouldn't do any of the stuff that I had preached at them. And one of my mentors at the time says, Gene, what do you expect? All you did is just get up there and give them a speech and expect them to remember it all. They're not going to remember 85% of it 5 minutes after you actually said it. You've got to actually show them what to do. How did they learn in school, right? In school, we learned by memorization. It's the lowest level of learning, right? So you've got to script out for them exactly what it is that you say to your customers that's given you the success that you have. And then you're going to have to role play that stuff with them. You're going to have to not only help them memorize it, but help them get the tone down, the inflection, the cadence, all of that stuff. So in working with sales teams, one of the things I've found is the most important, in my opinion, is daily training. I've studied under Grant Cardone as well, and they require 20 to 30 minutes worth of training every single day for everybody. And if you miss like 3 in a quarter or in a year, you're fired. I mean, they say that you get rusty in as little as 12 hours. I think it's less than that. So training daily was massive for us in how we grew teams fast and grew businesses fast. The other thing that we do now on a larger scale, if you get a bigger team, sometimes it's hard to have so many direct reports. So inside of our Lead Ninja Mastermind, which is the group that I teach twice a week, we have videos of scripts, and we've got, written out scripts, all this other stuff. And like, for instance, the surge protection thing we went through earlier, that's part of something they have to memorize in order to get certified through my company. And once they memorize it, they take their phone, they open it up, they turn the camera on, and they say, hi, this is Gene. I'm with ABC Heating and Cooling, and today I'm going to be doing the surge protection script. And then boom, they perform it for us. Wow. And one of my executive coaches will go in afterwards and see, did they nail it? Did they not nail it? And we'll give them a pass or a fail, right? So that's how you train bigger sales teams. But when I had my regular sales team, we were a smaller company, maybe 20, 30 people. Every morning, they would bring in their paperwork to me. We'd get around a big conference table. They'd pass their paperwork to me, because if I look at a technician's paperwork, I can tell you why he's not selling. And then I'd have 2 of them get up in front of the room and role play one of the pieces of our sales presentation. Could have been the greeting, could have been how we present the price. It could have been closing techniques. It could have been objections, could have been anything. And I would sit there and I'd listen while I was going through their paperwork. And quick tip for anybody who's got salespeople out there in the field, you want to look at what they're offering their clients, because a lot of times they're not offering them enough stuff. And so I would be looking and I'd say, Johnny, did this customer have a HEPA filter on their system? And he'd go, well, no, they didn't. And I'd go, well, why isn't it on the list? Right? Because I can't think of a reason other than money that everybody shouldn't have one. I mean, if they were free, would everybody have a HEPA filter on their house? If it were free, would everybody have solar? So then the only reason not to would be the money. Who are you to tell them they shouldn't have that or couldn't have that or wouldn't benefit from it? Put it in front of them. I'm not telling you to sell it. Just put it on the list, right? Because the bigger that list is, the smaller the stuff that they really, really have to do looks. Make sense? Yeah. So if they got a $1,500 repair, $1,500 is going to seem like a lot of money. But if I put together a list of things that have to be done, will need to be done in the near future, and then would be nice to have, and that list is 20 grand, now that $1,700 doesn't seem so big, right? Seems pretty small, and they're relieved. So those are like 3 things that just come to the top of mind. I mean, we could go for hours on that topic.
What about hiring? How do you find a good A player? I think that's always a question that people have, because sometimes interviews are different than employees. And how do you hire and screen talent?
That's not something I was very good at when I owned my business. I actually had somebody that helped me with that and did that for me. All of that being said, I have found more success by bringing in people who have provided me good or displayed good customer service, who are already in service-oriented fields, and training them on the business. I bring people from outside of the industry that don't have bad habits, that I don't have to retrain, that are not prima donnas. And I can take a guy who's never made more than 40 grand a year, and as long as he's willing to do exactly what I tell him to do, he'll make 200 grand this year. And he'll forever, and if I can help him do that, he'll probably do whatever I say and be loyal to me for a very, very long time. Mm-hmm. So I'm not the kind of guy that goes out and tries to poach people or convince people to come over to my side. I think there's a certain amount of that you need to do with everybody, but I'm not the guy that's out there looking for the top performers. I want somebody who's hungry, humble, willing to do what I tell them to do, that I can that I can make a massive impact on their life, and we'll have a situation where we have loyalty for a long, long time. So that's
Yeah.
my like take on how I prefer to build teams.
How about you leveraging AI in this world of sales and marketing? And how do you end up doing that and implementing that in your business?
So not this past November, but the November before that, I ended up encountering some AI software that was conversational AI that like could answer telephone calls and make telephone calls and talk to you.
Mm.
And I was like, holy crap, this is scary as hell. Because I could see a world where, as the technology advances, it's AI making these sales calls. So I ended up licensing the technology and immediately began to create an outbound agent that would call the existing customer bases of my clients and set them up for maintenance and service appointments.
Hmm.
And we programmed it with all of my knowledge, all of my scripting, even my radio show, everything that basically I train people in the knowledge bank, and it does a phenomenal job. And it
Hmm.
can make one phone call or 100,000 phone calls all at the same time. So if I need calls on my board, if I don't have enough appointments for all my employees, with the press of a button, if I need 20 appointments in 5 minutes, I can have them.
Yeah.
So phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal product, and it was a bitch to build. It broke constantly for a year, and thank God I had some people, some clients with me in the Founders Club that knew it was going to be tough. I told them it was going to be tough, and there were times where I didn't even think we were going to be able to pull it off, but now we have outbound agents that make outbound telephone calls to schedule appointments. We have inbound agents that replace answering services, that integrate with the CRM and book appointments for them. I mean,
Amazing.
it's a phenomenal time to be alive in this world.
Yeah.
Really amazing. And so in the future, what I really think we're going to be doing is using it for follow-up sales. We'll be looking at the quotes, estimates, prioritized lists, whatever you want to call them, invoices that people didn't buy on, and we'll use the same scripting we've used for years to call and close them.
Hmm.
So we're developing a sales AI right now.
Man, that's genius because it's definitely moving in that direction. It's definitely like you can't
Yeah.
necessarily have like an AI bot like go to your house and sell it, but you can at least set up the other parts of it that are really key.
Not
So
only
I
that,
can
imagine a world where you've got a guy out there that really doesn't have that much sales skills, and needs help closing the deal. So he picks up the telephone and calls his AI sales manager, Johnny, and Johnny ends up closing the deal for him while he's there.
hmm,
Imagine a world where in the morning they get into their trucks, these workers get into their trucks, the GPS on the truck tells their CRM they're en route. The AI goes, hey, time to role play with Johnny. Calls Johnny up and goes, hey, Johnny, your price is too high. I want to think about it. I got to talk to my spouse. I need to get other quotes. How are you going to handle it? And then coaches him. So
hmm,
these are all the things that we're investing in right now to try to be ahead of the game.
yeah, I think that's brilliant, man. How can people follow
Well,
you and
only
connect
time
with
will
you?
tell, right?
Yeah,
If it's smart or not.
yeah. How can people follow you and connect with you further?
So a lot of people think I'm crazy for doing this, but not only do I typically give out my socials, which are just at Gene Slade, GeneSlade, like Blade, but with an S, Gene Slade. But I typically give out my cell too. So if anybody wants to text me, my cell is 239-848-6533. I just ask that you text me. If you're going to text me, please let me know what your name is and what you're texting about. I don't necessarily always have the time to answer the phone, but I always look at my texts.
Cool. Well, I'll put that down in the show notes. Gene, it's been a pleasure getting to know you and hearing about all the cool stuff and the sales training and the team building and then the AI stuff that you're building. It's really cool. I appreciate you being on and sharing your story too, because that's always helpful for people to get origin story of some of the challenges that you face and the upbringing and the struggle and now to the success that you have and the prioritization, of like taking time for your family, make as much money as you can, give as much money as you can, save as much money as you can, and really be present with your family. I think that's so good. Um,
Yeah.
Down in the show
Thanks for
notes,
the platform, man.
yeah, down in the show notes, we'll link everything up with Gene. We also have that other training around how to do and build a sales engine, a marketing engine for your business as well. If you're an online coach or leader who's wanting to build an online presence, I can help you with that with a free training down below to check out as well. Thank you for tuning in to the podcast, and we will see you on the next episode.